Hello everybody, welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
My name is James.
It's Monday.
We're back.
We're in June. Oh, don't say that.
What do you mean, don't say that?
I was just thinking about that before we started the show, right? If only we were going on juice, because I've got a new 101. Room 101.
Okay.
You listen to pods, YouTube videos, bits and pieces,
No, I've got no time.
Just kind of start noticing how many times people start their podcast or show with "We're back," but that's like even shows that have a weekly show or every 2 or 3 days or whatever. It's always "We're back with another." You're back. We never went anywhere.
Jesus Christ,
back.
Suj, we had a week off. That's like a year.
You had
for
a week
us.
off.
Okay, yeah, true.
I had a week off from podding, so I'm not like saying I didn't have a week off, but. So I don't mind it in that context, but what winds me up is when people always start podcasts with "We're back" when they never went away.
Okay, well, we haven't gone away then.
It's going in room 101. And I guarantee you, people listening to the show, when they start listening to other people's pods and are conscious of how many times they get started with "We're back."
So what do you want people to do? When people say "We're back," say, don't say that no more. You want to eradicate that.
If you haven't been anywhere, don't start with
"But you have been somewhere."
No, you have. I'm not saying in this situation.
God almighty.
I'm not saying in this situation.
Definitely married the wrong person.
Generally,
I should have married you, babe.
All I'm asking is when you listen to the people's pods, have a notice of how many times people start with "We're back" when they've never been anywhere in the fucking first place.
Oh, fine.
They've just been recording podcasts.
Jesus,
you didn't go anywhere.
How have you been, boss?
I didn't want to call people out individually, but there are a few. I might start snippeting them. Been all right, mate. It's been a hectic, busy week as usual, but we had the bank holiday last week. Obviously, all of football is now, domestic football is wrapped up in a neat bow, so everyone's getting ready for the Euros. Maybe it's my obliviousness. I didn't realise the Euros is actually quite a big deal for a lot of people this year. It seems like a lot of people are getting really involved with it. I'm not a big international football guy, if I'm honest with you. So,
you're Portuguese now.
I don't get too hyped up. Well, I will be if we win.
If we win, you know.
And it's just Nico. If we win, and I'll be English if we win as well.
Right.
And I might have to find my French and who else?
German,
ancestry,
Italy,
maybe.
Dutch,
Yeah, whoever thinks got a chance.
Scottish.
Maybe. Have you been? You went to sunny Norfolk for a week.
Down a week.
Yeah, bad timing.
It wasn't the best weather. Yeah, it was a nice little break. You know what I did with the majority of my week? Planned the summer content.
Just think about what to talk about now. Well, Harry has his nap. I don't think he naps, but you know.
I don't think he sleeps.
That's also possibly maybe true. Since we last recorded, which was a week and a half ago now, we've obviously had a bit of football has taken place in terms of cup finals wrapping up the season. There's been quite a bit of a managerial merry-go-round where we've talked about quite often towards the end of the season, there was a number of questions on pods from listeners saying, how comes there haven't been that many sackings in the Premier League this season? And why do you think... And this whole summer's now actually the merry-go-round. Maybe something to do with compensation and how clubs want a mutual consent and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there has been a lot of managerial merry-go-round in the last few weeks. And there's still quite a bit to go because some clubs still haven't appointed managers, obviously. And we've had some questions in on Twitter, and we will also do some reviewing of our FPL seasons, which won't take long for mine because it was just rubbish.
We know how to make your season better.
You do you?
Yes.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Have you figured it out?
Yes.
Follow the template.
But that might be a start, maybe. A little discussion about that.
I think a lot of things to do with my season last season are very, very obvious, in my opinion. But not too many questions in, so I think we should have time to go through all of that kind of stuff and anything else that get raised. Finals. We're going to start with Conference League. Seeing Olympiacos take on our mantle.
Finals. I did watch them all.
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, on holiday I watched Fiorentina and Olympiacos, which, wow. I'm surprised Olympiacos scored because I thought the two teams were going to play forever and it was just going to be 0-0. It wasn't a thriller. But nice to have a new nation with a European trophy. I guess this is part what the Conference League is for, isn't it?
Yes.
It's to give clubs like this, a sizable club like Olympiacos, one of the big clubs in Greece, the opportunity to win a European trophy, because realistically, even Europa League is probably beyond reach now. That's what the design of this competition was.
True. And they've taken out Fiorentina and Aston Villa.
Basically.
Yep.
But it wasn't great for Fiorentina to lose that 2 years in a row. Great. I think they're in it again next year as well. I think possibly.
Third time lucky.
Which obviously Chelsea are going to be in it now. We're assuming that Chelsea are going to accept their invitation.
Yeah, I would say it's a 50-50, isn't it? If Chelsea are going to be in it.
No, I think they probably are going to be in it. But there was some speculation that they might just give up their place. There was some speculation about UEFA's FFP ruling being stricter than the Premier League's. And they're on the borderline of the Premier League. And therefore, they would potentially just not go into the UEFA competition because there wasn't enough money in the Conference League. Was an idea that was floating about.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily that it's stricter or not. Well, it probably is, I guess. It's just different. Whereas the Premier League's done on, well, at the moment it's done on how much you can lose over a 3-year period. For UEFA, it's a percentage of your income can be used against salaries and payroll and that kind of thing. So slightly different ways of looking at it. But we do think they will enter.
Yes, we've done.
Yeah, shame for Fiorentina. No love lost. We beat them last year, but yeah, it's got to be a kick in the teeth, hasn't it? And you can't argue with Olympiacos. I mean, they wouldn't have been favourites against Fiorentina. No. They wouldn't have been favourites against Aston Villa. They won pretty handsomely in the end. So to do that in the semis and finals, you go for it and you feel like you deserve it. Yeah.
As it was for Atalanta against Bayer Leverkusen.
Mad.
Which Atalanta was kind of the forgotten story of that Europa League final because of obviously the season Leverkusen have been having. I guess you'd say they've not completed football?
No.
But I suppose you have to win the Champions League to complete football. They will be very competitive in the Champions League next year. I'm pretty confident about that.
It's probably obviously very dependent on who they manage to keep a hold of.
Well beat by a team that was brilliantly set up by Gasperini, who was so aggressive man-to-man off the ball. And they exposed Leverkusen on the night. They looked the more experienced team, actually, with a hat-trick scored by Ademola Lookman.
Yes, Ademola
An
Lookman.
Absolutely on fire hat-trick. 2 of the goals absolutely brilliant as well. Is he in the England squad?
No.
No, he's not.
I will never forget his penalty for Fulham against us.
Oh, my God.
I will never forget it.
What a memory.
Just because I remember that game, because obviously I was watching it on the dodgy box, and if you remember, Souček at the other end scored, and I lost the feed for when Souček scored. It froze when he was about to score, and then when it had all come back again.
Why are you so too, Bob?
When it came back again was when Fulham had been awarded the penalty already, so I'd missed the Souček goal and the Lookman penalty, and then he obviously I saw the penalty if I was out. But to go on from where he's had a up and down, stop start kind of career in England, I think he's done generally well when he's been outside of the UK.
He did well at Leipzig before.
Yeah, and to score a hat-trick in the European final, again with Atalanta, wouldn't have been favourites against Leverkusen, were definitely not favourites against Liverpool. They've gone and beaten them in the semis and them in the final. Same as Olympiacos, you can't say that they didn't deserve it.
Oh, on the night, Atalanta were brilliant.
In both situations,
Liverpool at Anfield en route as well.
Yeah, right? This is what I'm saying. You've got to say that both finalists and winners of the Conference League and Europa League have been underdogs in semis and finals and come through and generally won comfortably, you would say.
The underdog was the better team in the Champions League final as well.
Yes, for the most of it. I don't think they were in the last 25 minutes.
No.
When you
could feel it coming.
Everybody
watched the whole game and knew that Madrid was going to win, even when Dortmund were dominating.
You know how SofaScore does the bar charts of who's in the ascendancy and what have you. Here you go. You can just see from that period onwards, it's Real Madrid just suddenly just took over, and that 20-minute period where they scored that two goals where they were just dominant. To be fair, quality did tell in the end, and you knew at half time already. It's like when you get those chances, if you miss them, it's gonna come back and hurt you. You got to score those goals, take those chances. I mean, they were smashing them for XG in the first half. Were Dortmund, and in the end Real Madrid have come
such big chances. The Adeyemi one where he tries to go round him, the Fulkrug one when he hits the post, which admittedly is probably offside. But they had some big moments. They were cutting. I
think they missed 3 big chances in the first half.
Spell where they were just cutting through them. Madrid looked really weird off the ball, where Bellingham was essentially playing wide on the left without the ball in a 4-4-2. Ancelotti fixed some things at half-time, which I think is important to say because there seems to be a little bit of just throw the Madrid players together and it'll be all right. Actually, no, they changed things tactically in the second half, which really alleviated the problems that they were having. They got the two quick boys, Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo, in some wider areas and started hunting Dortmund down from there. And eventually, yes, in the end, it's comfortable enough. Ian Maatsen gives away a terrible pass, but actually played really well, I thought, largely in the final at left back. When you look at Dortmund's team, I was thinking it during the game, I was looking at that Dortmund team, I think, I'm not sure any of these get in the Madrid team. And yeah, I've definitely seen stronger Madrid teams than this one as well, ironically. There's a weird feeling with them, isn't there? Like an inevitability that they're going to do it. And yeah, I think we all feel like we've seen better Real Madrids than this one.
Yeah.
And yet, as soon as they beat City, it was like, yep, they'll go and win this
trophy.
They'll go through
and do it again. But though coming from behind against, they didn't come from behind here, but coming from behind against Munich to get themselves through as well. They're a very, very good team with very experienced players and a really good blend of youth and experience in there.
Jude was very quiet.
Yeah. But I mean,
I didn't think he played that well.
No, but so what?
Spotlight's on him now, and as he said himself in the interview after the game, he's like, I don't give a shit what people think, and that's fine. You've got the winner's medal there as well now.
It won't get remembered.
I just didn't think he played well.
I think the season will get remembered for Jude Bellingham. His first season at Real Madrid to win the title, win the Champions League, all the goals and all of that kind of stuff is incredible. Is incredible to see two English players now getting that exposure with Lookman at obviously in the final with...
no, I really thought you were going to say Harry Kane.
No, I'm just thinking about English
Harry Kane
players
doesn't play finals, James?
In finals and winning tournaments. So I was just thinking about this in the context of England squads, particularly, where previously we've had really talented England squads where you talk about the golden generation and what have you. But the majority of their trophies and winning was... They were all at UK clubs, and winning UK trophies. We weren't doing very well, particularly in Europe. But now you see a lot more players doing well and winning trophies, whether they're domestically outside of Europe. And then you see international European trophies being won. And then now the English players that are playing at English clubs like Phil Foden's and what have you, the experience they're getting of winning European trophies as well. I do feel like the current generation, not only are they more talented, but they have a better exposure to winning trophies and the mentality that goes with that and going really deep. Whereas other than Man United and that, who really did well in Europe and stuff back then, particularly? Or what level of exposure did they have to that mentality and success? I feel like this generation has more.
I understand what you're saying in the sense you think of like the 04 and the 06 teams. It was only United had been successful in Europe.
Yeah, everyone else was good, but we were in a bubble of our own. They were good in the context of the Premier League.
That Arsenal team should have won the Champions League in 2004.
Mm-hmm. But again, that had very few British.
Actually, no, there wasn't many English in Liverpool. Won the Champions League in 05.
Yeah, but it's patchy. Whereas now you're seeing players who are travelling, like Sancho again has just played in the final. I know he's not in the England squad, but it's nice. And Lookman's not in the England squad, but it's nice to see English players doing well overseas and in Europe.
He was bright at parts. Second half, you wouldn't have noticed he was on the pitch.
No. But yeah, Real Madrid did the business. I mean, Jude Bellingham, what a season. What a season.
Oh, phenomenal. I saw an interview with him yesterday as well. He was spitting in Spanish for over a minute.
Yeah, he's solid. He knows what he's doing.
He's interesting. We take it for granted that people come here and learn our language, I think. Mm-hmm. But when we see it the other way around, we're like Harry Kane's, you've not seen any German, have you?
No.
And he's only a young boy, Jude, isn't he? So fair game to him.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Did you enjoy the game overall? It was entertaining enough. There's been better finals, but...
I'm sure most people would agree with this. All the way through, never really any doubt that Madrid would win, even when they weren't playing well. Never really any doubt about it. I think Dortmund have had a brilliant run to get to the final, but I think one of the weakest teams to get to a Champions League final in some time, actually. And I think...
Probably since Spurs.
Previous... like when they got to the final in 2013, that team got picked apart massively. I'm not quite convinced that this one will do, actually. Mm-hmm. And they're a second tier club in the sense that their star players will go,
Yep.
I'm not sure how many will actually get pulled away from that this year. Some of their best performers, like Mats Hummels, was outstanding.
Isn't he like 300 years old?
He's not even in the German squad, and yet Germany have defensive problems. So I keep getting told by everybody.
35.
But yeah, you're not getting picked apart.
How old is Emre Can? I need to know this.
Emre Can's got to be in his 30s, hasn't he?
He's 30.
Yeah.
I felt like he might be older. Yeah.
No, I don't think. Matson's been on loan from Chelsea. Adeyemi is a player that people keep their eye on. But no, I just think they had a really good run in the tournament and they equipped themselves very well in the final. But love regrets. Everybody was thinking the same. You've got to score when you're on top.
Correct.
And maybe it would have been different. But even there, it just felt like, well, Madrid will win 2-1 with 2 goals in injury time. Shame we don't get that Madrid-Leverkusen Super Cup final now. So we'll never know who would have got the last-minute winner in that one. There was one other cup final that was won by an underdog.
Just on the Champions League final, nice to see that it's not just English football fans that can be knobheads as well.
Oh, yeah?
Outside the stadium and all that jazz.
I've not seen anything, actually.
Wasn't there like 53 arrests?
Oh, overall, yeah. I don't know how much of that was around the stadium.
Storming the stadium and all that kind of stuff. You just
when I went to the Women's Cup final, it was clear they'd put up extra security areas
and stuff
to stop all the shit they had with the Euro final, but it didn't stop the people getting on the pitch.
Disappointed.
Made you laugh. Right in the first minute of the game, someone's on the pitch trying to take a selfie with someone. Where's the stewards?
Yeah, it's mad.
Pretty piss poor.
Yeah, so if you want to carry on the theme of teams that were underdogs in the semis, underdogs in the finals and came through, Manchester United just about scraped past Coventry in the semis and then managed to win the final, James.
And deserved
maybe they weren't
to do so.
Underdogs in the semis. They were in the quarters though, right? They have Liverpool in the quarters.
Yeah.
So they've beaten Liverpool, obviously Coventry they would have, and then they've beaten City.
So them 2 thrilling victories against Liverpool and Coventry actually had a reward at the end of it as
Correct.
well. So
and yeah, again, it's like the favourites, which we would have all put our money on Man City.
I don't think as many United fans would have expected victory.
No, and 2-0 up. I wouldn't call it a consolation goal, but squeaky bum time type.
A typical Onana moment, having played very well for 85 odd minutes. Yeah, United deserved it though for the way they played, particularly in the first half, and then the way they defended it from there on in. It didn't really, unlike with Madrid, like the inevitability you feel with them. It didn't feel inevitable for City.
No.
And I think I've been on trend with a few things we've said recently, like when we had Johnny and Gary on before the final. Johnny was kind of in agreement that last year's City was stronger than this one. I've been saying recently, I think Arsenal right now are stronger than City and might well show that next year. Yeah, City had a bad day to have a really, really bad day, and United exposed them on the counter. Obviously, the first goal was comical. The second goal was brilliant, and it was simplistic in terms of its ease, cross diagonal into Fernandes, into Mino. City looked like they're not there. I thought Bruno Fernandes, by the way,
that pass
was exceptional.
For Mino's goal was just class.
There's a lot of talk about Kobe Mino afterwards, and I completely understand that. Bruno Fernandes in that first half was as good as I'd seen him probably all season. Really good. In a weird way, I think longer term might not be such a bad thing for City. It won't feel like that now. But I think it acts as a reminder they've got to re-energise that squad this summer. You have to. It can't just... If they walk into August with just the same group of players without freshening it up, I would be relatively concerned for them. Not to the extent that they wouldn't be in the title race, but I'd be concerned about them going and winning it again. And obviously, the big narrative afterwards is we still don't really know if Erik ten Hag is staying or not.
Well, this is
which kind of links into the manager conversation.
But I was just pulling up the Premier League table, James, to see who has got a new manager and who is imminently. So going top to bottom, obviously Liverpool now have Arne Slot.
Yep.
Chelsea. Maresco.
It's going to be confirmed today, we think. Enzo Maresco.
Newcastle, we think Eddie Howe's going to stay.
Yeah, definitely. No question.
Okay.
No.
I would never say no question on anything.
I think Ten Hag's going to stay now.
Ten Hag might stay. West Ham have Julien Lopetegui.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace have Glasner from before, but it's a new manager. Brighton, we don't know yet.
No. Potter speculation is increasing.
Doesn't surprise me. 3, 4. I'm going to count Crystal Palace as a half, so that's 4.5. And that's it in the Premier League. Well,
Ipswich, Kieran McKenna is staying.
He
confirmed.
Didn't get any of the other good jobs, so he may as well stay there.
New contract's being signed. And obviously Leicester are losing their manager now.
So they're going to need to go and get someone. Who knows who they're going to go and potentially find. Obviously, we know Burnley, they're not in the Premier League anymore, but Vincent Kompany's gone to Bayern Munich, which is really interesting as well.
We presume Nuno is staying at Forest now.
Yeah.
Because there was some speculation about that as well.
Yep.
But then with Forest, you can never be too sure. They might just see something they like and then act. The big shock one was Chelsea, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't think that was a good move. I don't know what's happened there. I definitely do feel like the speculation is so varied with, is it Bowley's decision? Is it come above Bowley's head? Bowley went out for dinner with Poch to say, sorry, I didn't mean to make this decision happen or whatever. Poch hasn't really kicked off. He's kind of played the company man and just kind of been diplomatic about it and wished the club best and we did well and whatever else. But yeah, very surprising. Very surprising.
So this is a legitimate mutual termination of contract. You know, when they say, it's mutual termination or mutual agreement to end, it's never. This one really is, I think, Suj. So
you do?
Yeah. That's all the reports are suggesting.
I really felt like Poch would have wanted to stay.
Walk away. So Pochettino was unhappy with a lot of things. He wanted to get some experienced players in because it's obviously a very young squad. He kind of got pushed away from that idea. They believed that he should have performed better this year, despite the injuries. But they put a lot of the injury issues they've had this year squarely back at his door in terms of his training methods. There is some speculation that some of the players have said they'd been overworked in training, etc. In terms of Todd Boehly, it's not a Todd Boehly decision. Definitely not. Todd Boehly wanted Maurizio Pochettino to stay. It's the co-sporting directors above him, checks notes, Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart are the two that are basically responsible for having this end of season meeting where they've then decided to go in separate directions. The concerning bit, I think, for Chelsea fans, and Gary Mantle's going to come on the pod next week and we'll get the Chelsea view on it, is like from the outside, they finished the season brilliantly. You're going, right, this is now heading in the right direction. Players getting fit. You see the benefit of that, even limited minutes for the likes of Reece James and Kunku towards the end of the season. Moises Caicedo's improvement in the last month or two of the season. I think, okay, he's heading in the right direction. We'd sat here Monday 2 weeks ago and said, look, they'd be fourth over the last 20 games. It's heading in the right direction.
They didn't have their first choice goalkeeper, if you'd consider Sanchez first choice goalkeeper as
plenty
well.
Of issues.
Enzo Fernandez, as much as some will argue that it was beneficial that he went out of the team, but
Possibly.
He's still £100 and something million midfielder, World Cup winner that you have taken out of the team as well.
Now they're back to square one, aren't they? It's like, why bother?
Maybe. I don't know enough about Maresca to know whether or not he's a continuation of Pochettino's philosophy and style, or he's going to tear it up and start from scratch.
There's things I don't get. And again, these are questions I'll put to Gary next week. But they give Potter like a 5-year contract with the idea that it's going to be a project, right? Everybody got told it's a project. Okay, it's not working. You change. Then with Pochettino, you give him a 2-year contract with only an option for a third. He wanted a third, and there was an amicable agreement basically that going into the summer they had to either basically extend his contract or walk away from each other, and they both decided to walk away from each other. And now the reports are, we'll find out today probably, that Maresca is going to be 5-year contract. So why did you give Potter 5 years, Maresca 5 years, and not commit to even giving Pochettino 3 in the middle? So I don't understand. It's like, were you just not that sure in the first place? And now you're massively sure over a guy who's obviously done well in his first season with Leicester winning the Championship. The style of football, it's come under the Guardiola blueprint, which a lot of people want to go towards at the moment. But it's also unproven at this level. And you can also look at Leicester's squad and say, well, they absolutely should have pissed the Championship last year with what they were doing, bringing in people like Connor Cody and Harry Winks last summer, right? They spent a few million on Tom Cannon, who got barely any minutes for them because he was behind Daka, Iheanacho and Vardy up front, right? They should have been winning the Championship. So this could go either way. And I think there's a nervousness about it. Like if he starts really badly, whams.
Yep.
And then you've got that 5-year contract sitting there and you sit there 4 or 5 months in and, we've got it wrong again. Like now the Chelsea fans are just going to gun for these guys at the top. and the way the football club's being run. And it's a big summer for them, right? With likes of Chalobah might be sold, Gallagher might be sold because of the homegrown status.
And they're going to go and buy Adebayo and stuff.
Well, it's a free transfer, isn't it? This is the model that's working. That's why you can see Chalobah going. They'll get Adebayo in on a free transfer, amortise his wages, yada, 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 sell Chalobah, profit, all 100%. That's how they're working, isn't it? So Chalobah, is probably going to be sold. And he's actually done really well for them this year. Gallagher was a really important player for Pochettino. I don't know if he might have been told as well that Gallagher could be going, this be a part of it. I think Gallagher played the most minutes under Pochettino.
Yeah, and he was captain as well.
And I know there's an indifference in terms of his quality, etc. But he's been a big player for Chelsea. And it's one through the academy you don't really want to see you goes. So there's a disconnect from Chelsea fans to what's happening, where they've finally got somewhere and probably just started buying into what Pochettino was doing. And then you change again. So Gary's going to come on the pod next week and we'll get the Chelsea view on where it's at, because I think there's a lot of confusion at the moment.
Do you think Arne Slot will slide in easily into Klopp's slippers or shoes or trainers?
It's going to be mad difficult, as it will be forever takes over from Pep. And I think they'll find it difficult to be in the title challenge next year.
He was such a popular manager with the fans and stuff.
He'll do well. I think he'll be liked. I think he's got the personality that's strong enough to do that football club, which is really important. I'd looked at him obviously quite a lot last summer because Tottenham had been heavily linked with him. Play a brand of football that I think Liverpool fans will like. There'll be an adaptation, quite clearly, where he's not like a Klopp copycat.
Because they need a bit of a squad refresh as well, don't they? Like, what's the plan? Life after Salah, life after Van Dijk, midfield still a bit of a they need to bolster that midfield a little bit, don't they? But then they've got young talent, Jones and Elliott, and Jota's still young. Diaz,
Bajcetic missed most of the season. He's a really good player.
I think Gakpo's got the real potential to be their number 9. If Nunes leaves, they'll have a bit of money to reinvest as well. They're there. I don't think their squad is decimated. It's probably only 2 or 3 really good players from being back up to challenging, but the adaptation period is going to be the tricky one, I think.
You know what we do need to talk about, just thinking about new managers, is Paquetá.
Yes. Well, we can transition to West Ham United if you want.
I just want you to talk about Paquetá.
Lucas Paqueta. I was convinced that he was going to Manchester City because I was also convinced that he wasn't going to get charged by the FA. The rumours had been that they were longing it out, right? It dragged on for a considerable amount of time with Lucas Paqueta. So in the end, they were fast approaching a deadline by which the FA had to charge him, or they had to just drop it. They couldn't keep him indefinitely under this investigation or whatever. And everybody thought they just probably would let it go because they didn't have enough evidence. Otherwise, they would have charged him by now, right? He got charged. So now he has until today, 3rd of June or 4th of June to appeal.
Well, he's obviously going to, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still denying that he's done any wrongdoing at the moment as it stands. The FA have charged him. If he is found guilty, there's every chance that he'll get a 10-year ban. That'll be his career done. And if he gets away with it, well, then obviously that's different. I think any move away from West Ham is clearly completely off the table. Should he get banned, West Ham will help take legal action or whatever. But that's basically 70, 80, 90, call it what you will, £1 million up in smoke.
Oh, well.
What can you do?
This was literally the same day Lopetegui got appointed. It's so West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, well, Lopetegui was appointed well before. It was the day it was announced, right? So they must have had a heads up that the news was due to be announced, or the FA were going to charge him. I doubt the FA would have just charged him without saying, by the way, tomorrow or the day after you are likely to get charged. But I don't know. Why would they tell you in advance if you're going to get charged? The police come and arrest you. They just come and arrest you, right? They don't tell you, by the way, James, I'm going to come and arrest you. I don't know. Depends on the crime.
I think there probably is something to allow the club to prepare their own statement if they want to and stuff.
Yeah, I think it would be important to. Yeah. So as it stands right now, we have to wait and see. I think he's going to get away with it potentially still.
I don't know how you can know, but yeah,
this is it.
Legitimately,
right?
If he gets done, that's his career could be done.
It's
so serious, mate.
It looks. To you and me, it looks very obvious. Some of the yellow cards are very dodgy, yeah?
But But there are, I know people have highlighted, of the 4 incidents, 3 of them look really, really dodgy.
And he is a bit of a nutter. I
spoke to you last week.
He tears around the pitch like a nutter.
When we were coming back from West Brom, and I'd said to you, there was the yellow card he got at Leverkusen in Europa League quite recently, where he was on a yellow card tightrope. So if he got booked, he was going to miss the second leg. And he went mad into one, and it was a yellow card. And you think, what have you done that for? So if you just said, oh, that was one of them, I'd gone, that's mad suspicious. So he's had other ones that look, so he has got that in his nature to go in firmly 100%. For tackles, and he gets booked a lot. But it's not helping him here, though.
No. But how do you prove? I don't know what the evidence is like in terms of the gambling side of things. What bets were placed? How were they placed? Where were they placed? What have the FA got on him? But either way, this has to be resolved quickly. I don't think they can leave it to drag on to when the season starts. So we'll get a resolution on it. Lopetegui, I guess, has to make plans as if he's not there. Or work around what would happen should Paqueta not be available.
Yeah, but I suppose the plan was that he wasn't going to be there, but that's probably taking 50, 60, 80 million off your budget, right?
So be it, right? At this point, what can you do? There's nothing you can do, right? It's no different to if you got a career-threatening injury, a career-ending injury or something along those lines, right? Newcastle had it with Tonali. You know, you get players that get these bans. I suppose when...
Did Milan know?
Well, I don't know. Like you got, I suppose, like Luis Suarez gets banned for biting or racism or whatever, right? What the club going to do? The players can be a bit of a law unto themselves. This happens so rarely. You don't mitigate for this, but we don't know what insurance West Ham have against it.
No.
You'd like to hope that they have some sort of insurance against this kind of thing.
But they'll be able to sack him.
Yeah, 100%. If he's found guilty, of course. Yeah. But in the meantime, Lopetegui's got to build. Got to build without it. I mean, obviously, the rumours around Lopetegui had been well in advance of the Moyes announcement, and then see out the season, and then give it a couple of days and make the announcement. So did things in the right way, even though what's supposed to be behind closed doors always seems to find a way of making it out. What I find interesting at the moment, in terms of the transfer activity that the club are doing, so much seems to be focused around South America. I'm not sure why. We've had bids on 3 players, one of which is nearly over the line, one which fell through because of Saudi, and then the other I'm not so sure about. But it's weird that all the activity and all the rumours at the moment seem to be focused on South America and
cheap
Brazilian players. I mean,
if you can get these guys in,
30 million euros plus 20% add-on for a 17, 18-year-old who's unproven.
If you look at examples of players like your Casados, Brighton, Alexis McAllister, Murillo at Nottingham Forest, these guys have come in relatively unknown for not huge sums, and then what you can make if they turn out to be great is massive. I mean, Brighton is like over 150 for Casado and McAllister, isn't it? If Murillo went now, they're at least getting probably minimum 3 times what they paid off of 20 appearances or so. So if you can get them in and get it right.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with Steiden. I trust him. He's been generally good for us so far in terms of sourcing and finding players. It's his job to be scouting. So if he's finding these players, bringing them to the table, and there's potential, then, I mean, crack on. How many of these, they're all young kids. Apart from Bruno, he was 28, 29, but the rest are like 18, 19. How many are going to come in and get into the first team straight away? I don't think so, but you know, it's the strategy at the moment seems to be that. The main thing I think from West Ham's point of view, Lopetegui, that I find interesting at the moment is how often the club have been posting, and they did again yesterday, photos that show Steiden and Lopetegui together, Noble and Lopetegui together, the 3 of them together, where there had been a lot of narrative around, did Moyes and Steiden have a problem and that kind of thing. There's been, and then is Lopetegui come in as head coach rather than manager, and Steiden still pulls the strings? Did Noble and Steiden want someone else, whether it was Amorim or whoever else, and not Lopetegui, and he's Sullivan's choice or whatever? The social media and all of the imagery and all of the stuff that they're posting is very designed to show a united front of Noble, who's got the academy and technical, Steiden finding the players. Yeah, they're very heavily pushing that message and narrative. You can tell from the type of stuff they post what story they're trying to tell.
If you're not showing united front when you just appointed someone, mate. Exactly
that. But they're really making effort. I think it is a united front. And I actually think Lopetegui will do okay. You got to think, right? There's an elite level of manager out there who has won a league title or a European trophy in Champions League and Europa League. There's an elite group of them, the Zidanes of the world, or who's available that fits into that bracket. 4, 5, 6 managers. And they're going to sit within the group of clubs who are able to win a league title or a Champions League, which we are not. So then what's the next tier of category of managers that are out there in the market? I think Lopetegui sits at the top of that tier of manager with the potential to break through. If he did well at a West Ham, then one of those clubs may even look at him. I think he'll do okay. I think we've got to go in with an open mind. I think we've got to be positive about it, and I think he'll do okay. But you can't start with a negative mindset. So many managers, why they're fucking getting him or whatever. Can't start with a negative mindset. Got to think with a positive mindset, you know?
Well, no, I mean, to go full circle and finish off on managers, that's why it's interesting to see what's going to happen with the Chelsea reaction to Maresca. I'm sure the fans will get behind him, but it's going to be like a real sentiment of questioning the direction of the football club now, I think, from that fan base. And just interestingly on Ten Hag as well, I mean, most of us on the outside have really been expecting a change. But it's interesting, the polls that go around, I think even the Athletic did a poll of Manchester United fans on how many of them wanted Ten Hag to stay. It's like over 80% would still back him. And I'm surprised by that. But I also get it. You're looking at it going, well, they have had a lot of injuries this year. I think they're night and day, particularly when Lisandro Martinez is available or not. Like, he clearly wasn't fit for the FA Cup final, but got through it.
Still managed to make a difference.
And he's been the biggest miss of all, I think, through their injury problems this year. And in fairness, he himself repeated it again after the final. He's like, if I've got my best players available, you will see the results improve. And he's ended up picking up kind of a patched up, like Varane wasn't fully fit either, I don't think. And yet they've beat City. And you do sit back and you think, I wonder if they had Martinez fit all year, what difference that might have made. Because they can't play out from the back without him, basically. They have to rely on the goalkeeper to do it. So I think he'll end up staying now. It does appear as though Brighton might go back for Potter because it's kind of quiet on
I don't know
names.
what Brighton fans feel about it, to be honest with you. But I do feel like with Potter, it was unfinished business. Like he'd really made progress at Brighton.
He had to take the job, didn't he?
I'm not blaming him. Don't get me wrong, but I'm kind of sort of like, better the devil you know than you don't. And what would have happened had he stayed at Brighton? Where could he have taken them? And De Zerbi did kick on with them, but I'm interested to see, could Potter have taken them further? I'm of the opinion that he could have taken them further and was about to build on something. Of the squad that he had when he was there, who is gone? Cucurella's gone. Casado's gone, McAllister. 3 big players there, but there's also some other younger players coming through. They've added to the squad a little bit as well. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see what Potter does if he goes back to Brighton.
Don't go back. Don't advise it.
You don't advise it.
Don't go back.
Yeah, I agree, but also his time there was so short-lived.
I don't know how to equate that and say it is or it isn't. You feel like it had hit a point where it was like,
about to kick on.
Could Potter's Brighton challenge for the Champions League? I get what you're saying.
Kick on. Europe. Not Champions League. Kick on, get into Europe, then build some consistency.
We'll never know if Potter's Brighton would have qualified for Europe in the way De Zerbi's Brighton did. We will never know.
We will not. We will not, James. Cool. Let's talk about FPL for a little while because that's all the other shenanigans going on in the news. And we will, towards the end of the show, cover off what we've got planned for the summer loosely. Obviously, the one big dominant thing in the summer is the Euros. And we're generally recording all the way throughout. A bit of a hiatus at the end of July. But other than that, we'll be cracking on. You wanted to talk a little bit about our season in review, and I do as well. I don't make it sound like it's your discussion, but just to see what we learn. I mean, some of the questions that we had in on X as well is like from FPL Tractor. Ipswich, what lessons from 2023 did you take on into 2023-24? None for me, but generally, like, what do we learn and what are we going to do moving forward is quite a common theme that comes up. So
it's very, very important to remember that every FPL season is different.
Well, this is it. You draw a line on this season
important.
And nothing will happen. Nothing next season is dependent on this season.
No, but you can still take learnings away.
100%.
And I'm not going to go into deep here. It's more with the rank that Suj had this year, we can find ways of making up points for you and making it easier for you. But I did note, I was looking at your historical since we started the pod. I don't think you'd ever finished outside the top 300k.
Yeah. It's generally been fairly okay until this season.
Yeah, was not good.
No.
Here's a few questions for you. Do you know your highest scoring goalkeeper was this year?
Areola.
Do you know how many points he got for you?
Like 60 maybe?
36.
Goalkeeper points from Areola all season.
Yeah.
I knew it was low.
Do you know who your second highest scoring goalkeeper is this year?
Ooh. Not Dubravka.
Kelleher, 21.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So
now, there's no goalkeeper points at all.
I mean, interestingly as well.
I missed Pickford. Who else did well this year? Onana.
Pickford, Onana, Palace keepers like Johnson.
Dubravka.
Johnson's my highest scoring.
And how many did you get off him?
43, and Dubravka only 2 points behind that as well, though.
Okay,
41.
So 80 across the two versus my 50 across the two.
Dubravka never kept any clean sheets. Johnson did all right for me in the first half of the season, actually. What's interesting was looking at our teams of the year on FPL Optimised, Suj.
Yeah.
And the 8 attacking players that we'd have best all score more than the highest scoring defender. So you had 79 of Gabriel's points this year. I had 74. But our 8th highest scoring attacker for me, Jared Bowen, 80 points. And for you, it's Bukayo Saka, 80 points.
Wow, I had that many off him, and I missed so many off him as well.
Yeah, so I'll just clarify those two teams because they're a little bit interesting. So for me, it's Johnson, Gabriel, Pedro Porro, Saliba, Saka, Son, Palmer, Foden, Haaland, Watkins, Alvarez. So no Mohamed Salah in mine. For you, it's Areola, Gabriel, Porro, Trippier.
Trippier over Saliba.
Did well for you at the start. Palmer, Son, Salah, Foden.
So Salah versus Saka.
Haaland, Watkins, Alvarez, yeah.
So Salah versus Saka.
Basically,
and
yeah.
Saliba versus Trippier is the equivalent of 1.5 million.
But within
obviously,
that, there's some big differences. So, because
Saka.
you gambled against him at the end of the year, Erling Haaland, you got 321 points off him this year, which obviously includes captaincy returns. For me, 408.
Yep. That's 80 points massive.
Sizable difference. But there's others in your favour. I only got 143 of Cole Palmer's points.
Right.
You got 207, for example.
Okay. Saka must have hurt me the most, though. Massively.
Well, since you're asking, we'll cover that. So, individual returns in individual game weeks that hurt you the most, right? I'm just going to read out the names of the 15 players that hurt you the most with single given game week returns, i.e. the worst one, Erling Haaland, specifically
4
in game
goals.
week 36.
Bowen, hat-trick's going to have hurt me.
No, I'll just read these out for you. Haaland, Salah, Saka, Salah, Foden, Son, Saka, Foden, Saka, Salah, Saka, Trippier. They're all big names in there, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. There's nothing in there that's surprising. So basically, I didn't have the big name players.
Nearly all of mine are Salah and a couple of Palmer because I took Salah on the majority of the season.
But the weeks you took him on, you would have captained someone else and done okay as well.
Yeah, I had that real period. A lot of people wildcarded sort of around about game week 8. Liverpool had that brilliant block of like 4 games. It was Forest, Fulham, Everton at home.
Yeah. And
it was a decent away game. And a lot of people switched from sort of Haaland to Salah around there. And I stuck with Haaland. In fact, Haaland's captaincy return for me in the 4-4 at Chelsea is one of my biggest gains of the season. So as well as the losses, there's a gains there. I've captained Haaland at under 100% EO and he's returned really well. But yeah, that period I went against Salah, I had largely greens during that period, even though you look at that individually and go, oh, okay, over that period hurt. But I do reflect on it. I think there was ways to work him in as well that could have meant this was much better. In hindsight, it was never likely to be massive greens going against him because his ownership was so strong over that period. In terms of players that give you really good gains, Suj, Mo Salah, game week 16 was the most for you. Game week 20 with a 16-pointer. That was against Newcastle. Mm-hmm. I'd captained him that night as well. And I'm pretty sure you did as well. Haaland, game week 25, Palmer 20, Son, game week 30 was return against Luton, the late goal. I think you captained him in that game week. Nicholas Jackson, game week 36, 16-pointer. was good for you. The one that was the biggest individual game for me was Ollie Watkins, the haul against Brighton.
Right.
Game week 7. Was it
home win?
Hat-trick and 2 assists, wasn't it? I think.
Smashed them that day. Huge.
What's interesting as well, when I look at my gains, the biggest individual ones, there's a lot there with 20 pointers. There isn't for you.
I didn't score 100 points at all other than one game week this year.
So
missed all the big stuff. All the big stuff.
These are the biggest hauls of the season, individual game weeks. How many of these do you think you had? Mateta game week 34, 29-pointer. Vardiel game week 37, 27-pointer. Ben White game week 34. No. Cole Palmer game week 33, the 4 goals against Everton you did have. Ollie Watkins game week 7.
Nope.
Doku game week 11.
Nope.
That was the infamous, was it Adam from above average? Sold him on the hit. Best transfer of all time. Connor Bradley game week 22.
Of course not.
Erling Haaland game week 36.
Of course not.
Odegaard game week 34.
Of course not.
Palmer game week 31 you did.
Yes. So both the times I've had it is Palmer so far.
Mateta 38.
No.
Branthwaite 34.
Yes.
Foden's game week 23 hat-trick.
No.
Foden's 31 hat-trick.
Oh, sorry, the 23 I had and the 31 I didn't. I had the first
the
of
Brentford
his.
away you
I had
did,
the first one of his, yeah.
So 31 you didn't. Son's hat-trick at Burnley game week 4.
I don't think I had that. No, didn't have it.
Haaland's hat-trick against Fulham game week 4.
I would have had that.
And Jared Bowen's hat-trick against Brentford.
No, the Monday night didn't have.
I had
2 Palmers, a Haaland, and a Son. That's it.
And the Palmer and the Haaland ones,
everyone would have had it.
They're not going to take you far.
Yeah.
Mateta, Vardiol, Watkins, Odegaard, the Foden hat-tricks, and the Bowen hat-trick I had. That's a lot.
In
terms of a difference.
Completely.
Which, when I looked at, I compared our teams with a couple of others, Suj. So I compared with Jonas, who won overall, first place, won it by a landslide. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And because I didn't give him a big shout out in the last main pod, I compared with Sean Norton, our Everton correspondent.
Who? What did he win?
I can't remember.
Okay.
He won the
I don't think he won anything, did he?
The correspondent mini league.
What mini league is that?
Overthrowing somehow Mark Southerns by about 40 points in game week 38.
Isn't there only like 2 managers in that league? Nah, to be honest with you, shout out Sean, because that league is the only one I want to win every year.
So FPL Optimized gives you a breakdown of points per certain aspects of minutes, goals, assists, etc. Yeah. And I just wanted to run through a few of these for you. So Jonas, 974 points for minutes played. Sean's 924. Me, 948. You, 945. Okay, so it's not miles off. So he's managed to get an extra 30 points for minutes there. Yeah, it all adds up when you're finishing first overall. Clean sheets, Suj. Jonas got 266 points. Sean, 255. Me, 244. You, 214.
30, 40 points.
So it's a big drop, difference. But it's dropping in terms of rank, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Assists, I'm going to talk you through, Suj, because this is really interesting. So Jonas got 330 points for assists this year.
Okay.
Sean, 324.
Close.
Me, 342.
Beat them both.
And you, the same, 342.
Wow. Assists was the one, yeah? Who got the assist? Me.
Tom Cantwell and FPL Pricey. So...
Well, not according to that. You and me did, mate.
Guess for goals. What this is going to mean. You did well on assists, boss.
It's going to be disastrous.
Jonas got 999 FPL points from goals scored.
999. So just... Okay, go on. Finish what you're going to say, then I'll have my thoughts.
Sean, and for the record, Sean's rank was 11k. 887. Me at 113k. 808 points for goals scored. You, 664. You were 330 FPL points behind the winner just on goals scored.
What I'm more interested in is that goals, and obviously they are worth more, but if I'd have said to you goals are worth 3 times as much as assists in your overall points total, when if you think about it, for a striker, it's only 1 point more, right? So that's 30% more. And midfielders, it's 2 points difference, but it's not like double or triple. Well, it's close to double, but it's not 3x more points for goals than assists, but goals are worth 3 times more. Does that mean we should prioritise goal scorers over assist makers, creators?
What do goals also create in FPL?
BPS.
So, bonus points scored in FPL this year.
Yeah,
for
man.
Jonas, 344. For Sean, 293. For me, 273. For you, 241. So, you're 330 points behind on the goals scored, and then another 100 points off bonus points.
Because of the goals scored. Yeah,
largely.
Okay.
There's clean sheets as well.
Late on Watkins and not having Haaland at the end is really
back
heavy.
to all them halls. What's in them
Paquetá.
halls? Even the Ben Whites, the Vardios.
Guardiola's
the
goals,
Graces,
goals,
right? The
goals,
goals,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I wondered if for you perhaps had a fault this year of targeting consistency rather than explosiveness.
Fixture, I suppose when you're targeting explosiveness, you're targeting fixtures. Obviously, you want a player to be in form and good. You're not just going to pick an Ollie McBurney because he's got good fixtures, right?
By the way, Jonas did on his free hit.
Pick Ollie McBurney?
Yes.
Nice.
They left him on the bench, obviously.
34?
Yes, he did.
34?
Yeah, he had 140-ish, I think.
Okay.
I think in that week.
So, yeah, you do want to pile in, whereas I like to be a little bit more around the consistency. You're right. Yep.
Do you take anything from that?
Well, I didn't. I think the biggest takeaway is that how much more, in terms of my overall goals, were worth than actually anything else. Yeah, I think I really need to. Like in another given season, had I not been behind, would I have then gone against Haaland? Possibly, maybe not on wildcard and tried to get him in and so on. So I kind of draw a line under the season and just move on. I think more than anything, yeah, I'm interested in the impact goals have on total points scored and overall rank. And ultimately this year, I was just late to move on higher owned players.
But then you were on Palmer long before me.
Yeah, but again, remember, people that bought Palmer when I bought Palmer bought him because he was an enabler, right? Almost. He was like 5.5 million. It was the ultimate easy choice. How many of us
left him on the bench when he got the brace?
Yeah, when I bought him because he was an enabler. I can't sit here and say I had ingenious foresight to think Cole Palmer's going to basically challenge for the Golden Boot and be top point scorer in FPL this season. Oh, I don't know if he was he? Did Watkins beat him overall?
I'm not sure now if it was Palmer, wasn't
Palmer
it?
Probably. So, yeah, I can't claim that insight, I'm afraid. I didn't have that thought, but yeah, I get that. I think for me next year is going to be much more when there are trends in terms of ownership going above 30% and the fixtures align with and the form is there with players that are maybe not quite top 4 teams, just go with the flow. Like I say, Jared Bowen starts doing really well for West Ham under Lopetegui, but I don't start the season with him. Just get on it if the signs are there, or an Eze or Mateta hits the ground running where he left off. Just get on it straight away and don't leave it for too long.
The Bowen one's an interesting one because I had the hat-trick against Brentford. But if you remember before that, he'd had a real succession of blanks. And it was just a case for me that I had bigger fires and knew his consistency, and also Paquetá was coming back about that time.
Yeah, he came back.
His creativity had been a big miss around about that time because he came back and then you beat Brentford and you beat Everton, didn't you?
Yep.
Straight away. Yeah, let's hope he stays available for you. Cole Palmer was the highest scoring player, so 244 points. Phil Foden, second in the end, 230. Who give me 3 brilliant hauls.
He had a
through
great
the course
season,
of the season.
Yeah.
Ollie Watkins 228, Bukayo Saka 226, Haaland 217, Son 213, Salah 211. With Son and Salah, there's a bit of mitigating of the international tournaments.
Yeah,
they went
injuries
away
and international.
Treble Arsenal defence for your team of the season: White 182, Saliba 164, Gabriel 149. And Jordan Pickford, comfortably the highest scoring keeper in the end, 153, who everybody got sick of after the first 8 game weeks and sold and largely didn't go back and buy again. And to another interesting one as well. This is a minor one, didn't impact much on your points, Suj. But I noticed penalties missed, all right, cost Jonas 20 points this year. Penalties missed. For Sean, that was 14. For me, it was 14. For you, it was only 10.
Okay.
But with missed penalties, probably, I wonder how many of Jonas's points were made up with penalties being scored.
I'll be interested to know, yeah.
Maybe you've been quite off with a number of penalty takers not having them.
What, Saka? If he's not giving them away, of course.
One, yeah.
Salah I didn't own.
Salah
I don't feel like Salah had a lot of penalties this year.
Had a couple towards the end, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't feel like Salah had a lot of penalties this year.
That period I didn't own him. It felt like he did. The penalty against Everton. That one really stung. The second goal against Everton in the Merseyside derby, right at the end when so many had captained him, was a real stinger. Hits, interestingly as well, so just for the record, Jonas only took -12 the whole season.
Nice.
You were only -20. Sean was -20. I was -28.
Okay.
But just shows.
I'm surprised there's one player that hasn't been mentioned at all in anyone's, and that's Isak. I thought Isak did really well for me, but clearly not.
Burnt me game week 38 after I sold the bugger because I had nothing better to do.
Yeah, maybe because of his injuries and being in and out, he just didn't have the consistent. If we did all of these stats per 90, he'd probably be up there. But because
he would definitely land in a few teams of the season for individual managers. I think you and I had owned Alvarez for quite a sustained
start. I went early on
start.
Alvarez, and he did well for me there. Yeah.
I think there's a full of discussion point about this as well, in the sense that Jonas has obviously won the game, and congratulations to him. He's won it by a landslide. And I don't know, Suj, if you caught the pod that Luke Williams did, solo pod.
I did.
Very recently. You listened to it, yeah?
I did.
I'm glad you did, because it's a brilliant, brilliant bit of content, which I think is worth expanding on. Just discussing on kind of the future of FPL and what might be needed to stay the course with these brilliant players, because it's very clear. You have to look at the mini leagues that Jonas is in, that it's very much an analytic player. And he was in one particular league, which we shouted out on one of our Patreon pods, didn't we, Suj? Bullet Wisdom. Shout out to the Bullet Wisdom guys, who have got so many managers in like the top 100 in the same mini league. It is getting harder and harder, this, because it's not just your brilliant sites like your Optimize Review and several other brilliant ones in terms of analysis, projections. People are coming up with their own.
Yeah.
People are coming up with their own models. I see that more and more throughout the season. My model says and stuff like that. So people are expanding on the brilliant tools out there and creating some of their own methodology as well. Do you think that to stay good at FPL or become good, you need to go down this analytic route now and using models to help play?
So we've got a pod on Friday, right? Success debate. I feel like it's on Friday.
Yeah, it's not about FPL.
Oh, okay. Shame. I thought it's in the schedule as the debate on success. And I thought it would be in the context of FPL. So there we go. Maybe we'll
It's enough FPL, yeah.
The way I look at it is that the analytic, if you take the analytic approach, it will soften the downside for you, but it won't necessarily give you the big upside. So you want to win FPL, and what's happened with Jonas, he's had so many consistent transfers over a long period of time that have all worked well. And he's probably had a number of hauls and things that have gone well as well. If I was to take the analytics approach, I feel like it would guarantee me a better base level, because I wouldn't make as many risky, crazy, stupid, weird moves, because you're always following the safe. But it won't necessarily always give you the upside of the haul picks that might come from nowhere. Like a Mateta was not going to come out of analytics. He might have after 2 or 3 weeks of doing well.
He was on that free hit.
For 2 or 3 weeks,
he would have been on that free hit.
He would have, but prior to that. And also, we talk so often about getting on players early, which analytics won't necessarily help you do before they get on a run. That's a little bit of sniffing out.
It does. A lot of it's projected points. And
sometimes. Yeah. I think if you're moving between the circle of the elite 20 or 30 players. So the way I would look at it is, if you go down the analytics model, it will definitely decrease the downside. Like going analytics model, you're not going to finish like I did, 1.6 million. You'll probably guarantee yourself a top 250, 300k finish, because you'll just be safe. And I also think it might stop you, though, potentially getting the big upside, because you won't pick that 1 or 2 or 3 rogue random players that
but
do.
You don't have to necessarily follow it, right, as well. You
No,
can take
you
the
don't,
advice and
but
still
people
make
do
your
or
own
you don't.
decisions.
Yeah. I think it's like, what's the balance of analytics decisions versus rogue decisions? Do you go 80% analytic, 20% rogue, 90-10? How do you decide when to go rogue? So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, look, you can go both ways, right? And it's not to say, analytics is necessarily the right way to play it in terms of finishing first overall, for example. Take Jamie Pickett a couple of years ago, right? Jamie steamed into De Bruyne and a few differentials because it was his only way of winning it at the end.
Yeah.
Right? And he himself would say, I got lucky at the end because these differentials I went for, boom, kicked off and took him from, it was about 150th, 200th or something, to first captain De Bruyne in game week 36. Yes, Andy Martin, we know you triple captained him. So there's different ways to win it. It's not to say, you've got to be analytic. But what I am saying is, and I think per Luke's point is, if being successful to you is defined by your rank at the end, then following these models clearly is going to help. You're mitigating the risk, if you will, right?
But this is what I'm saying. You're reducing your potential downside, where you'll stay comfortably to 300k, let's say top 300k. Whether or not they will pick out the ones that are going to go off, I think you still need 5-10 picks a season, game weeks where you have a Mateta goes off or a Gvardiol goes off, and sometimes they will be picked by the analytics models. More often than not, though, I don't think they will be. But then it comes back down to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think
have a bit of fun.
Different people.
If you support a team and you want to pick players from your team, Tom Med, get the Brentford boys in. Do it.
Tom will do dumb things like have 3 Brentford players and not have Tony.
Yes,
he's been there.
Tom is also one of the happiest people generally. I mean, assertions, but generally, anytime you see Tom, he's always smiling, he's always chilled, he's always happy because he doesn't take life too seriously and he's enjoying his FPL.
Brentford are in the Premier League,
and
he probably still can't believe it.
And so is he being successful? Yes, because he's enjoying the game. The second that it stops being enjoyment, you've lost already. And then, so don't hold everything against necessarily winning. Per se, but that's where I see it as if you want to pick players from your own team, do it.
With the season you've had and then that information, does that make you feel like you would want to use models to assist you?
Yes. At a very high level, I'm going to say yes. I don't think I would start using algorithmic models and just typing my...
Because you can adjust all these things to your benefits, right?
Yeah, exactly
editing expected minutes, etc.
And if I see ownership going high and the herd going in a certain direction, I am less likely to say, they don't know what they're talking about, I'm going to try something different.
You don't need a model for that, though.
Yeah.
You can see it and you can feel it.
What I'm saying is when we look at the model, it's what bits of data am I likely to use to help me make decisions on my transfers? And some of these algorithms have 100-point models. For me, I would need 4 or 5 bits of data. Who's affordable in my budget? Who's the most highly owned? Who has the best fixtures? Who scored the most points? What's the direction of travel that most people are going in? Decision made.
You can find a model that can do that for you, right?
Yeah, as opposed to shots per 90, shots on target, touches in the box, blah, blah, blah. I'm not likely to go down the route of all of those different variables. I'll probably stick at a high level.
Because a lot of these models will give you a projected points, right?
Yeah, but I don't think I necessarily want to go to a model. I'd rather still do the work myself. I'd rather still go through the decision-making process myself. I wonder how many of these models give you 3 options, for example. It'd be really interesting to say.
I don't know.
Me neither.
Because I don't use them. That's the honest truth. And that's not to be critical of these models. No, not. They're clearly amazing. Different. Yeah, for me, it's still very much... I think Luke's point on it that he made on that pod, and I really recommend it, is really good because it's kind of toying at the importance of, well, if I want to stay good at this game, I might need to start considering these sort of actions too. Yeah, and adapting from a world where, you had your discussion forums on, say, Fantasy Football Scout when the game started in the noughties and stuff like that to what it is now, where we're talking about people even expanding on these brilliant models that are out there to people making their own models and making their own adjustments to their own needs, etc. For me, I discussed this on a stream I did not long before the end of the season, where the question was in relation to blanks and doubles. What are you going to do next year, James, when there's going to be less doubles and stuff like that? And I said one of the enjoyments for me as well with like doubles is not necessarily about being right. It's about the process of trying to understand with the fixtures what might go where. And it's the same for me making my transfers. I'm not defined by my rank. I finished 113k in the end when I would have liked to have stayed in. I was 99k going into the final day. Like literally, what difference did it make to my life whether I finished 87k or 113k? Absolutely none. What difference has it made to your life finishing outside the top million this year?
Well, my sponsorship deals have all disappeared.
It's not true.
None of my sponsors are interested in me.
It's not, but I also understand for many other people that it is massively important, whether it's winning a mini league or an
mini leagues are really important.
For me, what I enjoy is the process and trying to find the solutions myself is the battle. That battle is becoming harder because there's better tools out there, better managers, etc. Right? Better content out there.
Yeah,
as well.
You're in the elite top.
I am in no elite.
Wait, I haven't finished the sentence yet. 0.01% in terms of minutes of football watched in a season. Nobody gets to watch as much as you. Not gets to, but can maybe. You watch.
Plenty. I know patrons who watch more football than me.
Yeah, but that's the top. I don't think you can win FPL by only watching football all season and not taking into account any stats. But I do think you can win FPL by watching zero football all season and only looking at stats.
I agree with this.
Yeah. So this is where it's like, okay, well, if your advantage is watching football, it's not the advantage as using the data necessarily.
I'll get asked in a couple of weeks, what's your target this season in FPL, right? And I will say first.
Yeah.
I've learned to say that from Sky because in Sky it's not realistic but that's the only target in Sky Fantasy is to finish first. When I get asked, what's your target this year? I'd say first. Oh, no, I mean realistically. Well, realistically now, I feel like a top 100k finish is absolutely brilliant. There's a lot of people who still be stuck with the top 10k metric and stuff like that. So I would be happy again with top 100k. But if I want to meet the original answer to the question of first, I probably clearly do need some help.
Mm-hmm.
So how important is that to me? Or do I still enjoy most the decision process of trying to come up with, well, if I make this transfer here, then I've got that amount of budget for this. And do you know what I mean? Those models can help you with those things. And I've noticed
this change in their strategy, which means they've gone to 3 at the back, which means...
For me personally, I will continue doing it my way, if you will. But what I'm also saying is my way isn't particularly successful. It's just where I get my enjoyment of the game is trying to work things out for myself.
Try and find some joy, which people do get from any individual game week where shit pops off. Like Adam had a lot of joy with the Guardiola captaincy and stuff like that, right? Because if you wait till the end, like look, if the FA Cup was all Man City had and they waited to the end, they'd feel deflated. But if they can celebrate the wins along the way, then you kind of have some mini victories as you're going along, right? Whether you consider West Ham season successful or not, if we don't enjoy the victories along the way, whether it's beating Arsenal or Chelsea or yourselves or whatever, then what's the point? You get to the end of the season and it's not a good season. Well, it has had highs. If you can enjoy the moments where you captain a Mateta and he goes off or whatever, you still get these bits of joy. And they're much easier to get right than winning FPL at the end of the season. So trying to find the micro victories along the way. And that's why I think mini leagues are really important. I don't pay too much attention to too many mini leagues, generally because the ones that I'm in from FPL is with good managers who are better than me. And the ones that I'm in that are non-FPL are with really shit managers that I can just massacre. But it's a mixture of, I mean, I've lost a few of my mini leagues where players that are not in the community, to be honest with you, this year, because I've been so bad. But I think getting more joy out of mini leagues is something that people can look at and consider as well.
Oh, look, everybody gets the joys in different ways. I think probably what I'm trying to define there a little bit is if your joy is from the outcome, then you should consider looking for assistance of tools that are out there. If your joy comes from the process, which is more like me, and then once the weekend starts, it's all about Tottenham really, rather than what my FPL team does. And some weeks will be good and some weeks will be bad. The enjoyment for me comes in the process, the content, the building towards it. Then what happens is it is what it is. If you're happy with the process and the decision made, if the outcome's what matters to you most, I think you need to consider keeping up with these guys because it will get harder.
Yep.
That's the point.
Cool. James, let's do the content schedule for the week, and then we'll get into a couple of questions that we've had in on X. We've covered off quite a few that have been discussion points.
Don't forget to mention Game Week 39 as well.
Oh, let's do that.
So content this week, Clayton's joining me tomorrow for a chat on Three Lions in England, obviously playing Bosnia and Newcastle tonight. So I think it's probably been off our brains since the Southgate squad announcement, but there's got to be learnings from tonight, because there's a lot of players still carrying injuries. We're going to find some stuff out over the next 24 hours. So an England discussion tomorrow. On Wednesday, Clayton will also be joining me for an intro to how to play Euro Fantasy, which we will be covering throughout the summer. Thursday, Matt Samuel is joining me for a discussion on Southampton. Congratulations to the Saints. Obviously got promoted back. You didn't mention the playoff final much. No, Matt's joining me for a whole podcast on Thursday. Friday, I'll be streaming as well. Patreon podcasts this week include Q&A today. Tomorrow, Suj quiz. Gary Robinson's hosting that on England in the Euros. Wednesday, Tottenham Arse. Clayton be joining me for that. Thursday, Man City and the 115 charges. D-Day is looming. We are going to get into the nitty-gritty of that on Thursday. And Friday, success versus failure, which is not an FPL conversation, Such. It was more in relation to lots of people talking after Manchester United won the FA Cup if they'd had a better season than Arsenal.
Right, okay, yes, indeed.
And a spin-off from there, how do we measure success versus failure?
Yeah, I'm well up for that. That would be a good discussion, actually, because we can take it in so many different directions. I think some that scare me even, but we'll talk about that on Friday. Game week 39, obviously the Team North team were victors 4-2 over Team South the weekend before last. Again, we managed to raise a shit ton of money. We've got to give a shout out to Benny and James, who headlined the planning of it all. They're not the only ones. There were so many other people involved on the day. If you head over to Twitter and follow Benny Blanco, just look at his tweets, because he's tagged everybody in there. If we started tagging everybody or mentioning everybody, we would be here till tomorrow. But so many people that were involved.
Tagged me, so I had to mute that. Cheers though, Benny.
It was a great day out. Unfortunately for Team South, we did lose on the day, but it was a really competitive game. I actually quite enjoyed the game. Nah, don't blame yourself, mate. I'm going to blame...
Manager, take responsibility. I'm not Conte or Mourinho. I'll take responsibility for my actions.
Nah, I'm going to blame Adam Pritchard. Haircut. Highlights. Adam, come on, sort it out, mate. Nah. It was a really good, even game. It was competitive.
The better team won.
The better team did win, and obviously Geordie's a hell of a player and a beast.
He's
of
not
a guy.
bad, is he?
So, yeah, but ultimately the point was bringing the community together and raising money for charity, which Street Child United's now had over 20 grand over the last 3 years. If anybody still wants to donate, Game Week 39 northvsouth.com, I think is the URL. But also you'll find it on Twitter. Why not? Help.
And if Team North want to play us again, and we'll have Geordie, let's see how we get on.
Oh, that could be a good player swap. Player swap.
That's a good challenge, isn't it?
Player swap.
There'd be a lot of that.
Yeah, Game Week 39 was great. Well done to everybody involved with that. The Hawthorns as well. Cool. The whole match is available on our YouTube channel. Just saying,
and little highlights as well.
And behind the scenes
stuff with me ignoring you.
Me trying to wind you up all day. Someone needs to listen to the commentary and count the baby peps, because I owe 10p or 20p. I can't remember what I promised. I might just have to put 25 quid in and just can't be bothered to count.
Did you put 1,500 quid in?
That's true. Well, not all of that was me. That was patrons and some generous donations. That was
shout out. Everybody who attended our live show in November contributed to that. Our correspondents and our patrons again. Brilliant stuff.
Nice. Right, this is about Man United getting credit for their FA Cup win. We gave them that. What is both of yours early bold prediction for the Premier League next season?
Oh, God. Who's asking that?
That's Ian Hamilton.
Bold. Arsenal to get 100 points.
Is that bold? I mean,
yes.
It's never been done before.
Well,
it's only been done once before. As I might say, it's only been done once before. I'm going to say... I'm thinking about who I think is going to get relegated. Bournemouth to get relegated.
Really?
Yeah. It's bold, isn't it?
I've got a bold one in my head, but I realise you can't upset this group of fans, so I don't know if I want to say it.
Okay, Liverpool outside the top European places. Liverpool outside the top European places is what James wants to say.
Yeah, that.
Okay. Sam, it says one of two. Okay, can I get Suj and James's opinion on the West Ham Spurs rivalry? I'm a West Ham fan and feel that Spurs fans think they're too big to have a serious rivalry with little old West Ham. Both our history is very similar, with us probably having a bit more success. So Sam's obviously a West Ham fan, as he's highlighted there. It says one of two, but there's no second tweet. So
I bet there is.
Nah. Oh, here we go. 2-2. Both of us have had some years brilliant players. Yet I still feel like every time West Ham are about to play Spurs fans have an arrogance about them that they don't hate West Ham the same way West Ham hate them. Would love to hear both your thoughts.
Well, that's very easy to answer.
In what sense?
Well, we hate Arsenal.
Well, you do have a deeper rivalry with Arsenal, and we don't have Millwall or Leyton Orient.
Your main rivalry is us. Ours is Arsenal.
Yeah, ours is you by default. Like if Millwall were in the same league as us, it'd be Millwall all day long. But they just haven't been in the same league as us. I do think in terms of superiority/inferiority, where West Ham have let ourselves down is in this century we've had stints in the Championship, which you guys haven't. Like, when's the last time you guys were relegated?
Late 70s.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, right? Whereas since then, we've had numerous stints outside the Premier League. So straight away, I know it's consistent now when we've built the stadium, and it's highly unlikely that we'll drop back down.
Hold up, you built the stadium.
Well, okay. you built the stadium with your taxpayers' money. But we've got the infrastructure. It's unlikely that we're going to drop back down again. But I do think that stigmatism that comes with being yo-yo a little bit has an impact. Yeah, I think that does have an impact.
This isn't just the West Ham thing. We discuss this a lot on our Patreon pods, right?
Chelsea.
It's Chelsea as well. Chelsea's main game is us. Your main game is us. Ours is Arsenal. So these games are always a problem for us, Chelsea and West Ham, because the reality is to the fan bases, it does matter more to Chelsea and West Ham fans than Tottenham. So it's not just a little West Ham thing, because Chelsea have been how successful over the last 25 years? Yeah. And yet the game is still more important to Chelsea fans than it is to Tottenham fans.
I'm not sure on the historical success. You know better than me.
What?
In terms of historically, like Sam saying that the clubs have been fairly even, but I don't feel like that's necessarily the case.
No.
Yeah. So, in terms of periods of good players and bad players,
if you want to go trophies over history, it's not close. In terms of competing in European competition, our Champions League runs over the last 15 years or so.
Then I don't think you can count runs.
League position.
I don't think you can count runs per se.
I mean, could we count on two hands how many times West Ham had finished above Tottenham in history? I don't know.
I don't know either. I do feel like you've been more successful, but that's a perception without it being based on stats. I'd be interested in, like, if we looked at 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, 50 years, is it progressively worse or better or same throughout as periods?
Well,
I don't think it would be too much fluctuation.
Terms of sustaining as a club, you're as sustained as you've been since, I don't know, probably good team in the mid-80s.
Yep.
I would say.
Yep. In terms of the rivalry, maybe this is an interesting point to end on the Q&A anyway, but then I've got one more thing I want to run by you, which actually, I'm interested in Nico's opinion. No, it's a good thing. This is like we're getting to the dregs at the end of the pod, people, but still listen in. In terms of the rivalry, there's an interesting psychology theory basis, what would you call it? Opinion, school of thought, whatever, where everybody exists in one of two states when it comes to other people, right? And this is how we make ourselves feel good about ourselves or not feel good about ourselves.
Psychology warning.
Yeah, here we go. When we look at other people, we look at them in the lens of, you're okay. When I look at you and say, oh, you've got a nice house, good car, good job, making money, happy family.
Fuck you're talking
okay,
to.
Therefore, I must not be okay because I don't have what you have, right?
Okay.
Your house is better than mine. Your car is better than mine. Your kids are doing better than mine. You're earning more money. If you're doing well, by comparison, what am I must be doing? Not well.
Okay.
That's the way people look at the world, right? They're doing good. Therefore, why is my life so shit? But the alternative is good, is true as well, where I look at it and it's like, oh, he's got a shit house and he's got a shit car and he's not doing well and he's not scoring goals. Therefore, if he's doing shit, if he's not doing okay, therefore I must be doing okay. So either you're doing better than me, therefore I'm not okay. It's completely irrelevant.
You're relating this to football here, aren't you?
Yeah. Or you're not doing okay, therefore I must be okay. The reality is, the relevance of how you're doing in your life has no relevance to how I'm doing on my life, because you're not the comparison of whether I'm doing okay or not. This is where football is like, okay, from an Tottenham point of view, take this with a pinch of salt. If you look at Arsenal, it's like they're doing okay, therefore we must not be okay, because we're not doing as good as they are. No, wait, let me finish. That can lead into the discussion on Friday. But the alternative is true, where you look at West Ham and you can say they're not doing okay, therefore we must be okay. Well, which is it? Are you okay or are you not? Because are you comparing yourself against Arsenal, or are you comparing against your West Ham?
No. So I think certainly we've discussed this in the past, where it's like, if you're in the shadow there, and if they're doing really well, which they are doing at the moment, then that's making your life more difficult.
Doom and gloom, because you're not okay in your perception of yourself. When we did the
Tottenham pod the day after we lost to City, one of the things I didn't mention, I should have mentioned, was that if Arsenal had won the league, that would have made Angie's life a lot tougher next year.
Yep.
Because of that projection.
They're okay, therefore we're not okay, therefore we need to fix ourselves.
It's not just they're okay, they're the best.
Well, exactly.
Right? So if you do that, at the moment, Tottenham couldn't be successful. You could only look at Tottenham this year and go, has it improved based on where it was 12 months ago?
But if they were not okay, you would be more okay.
If Arsenal were 15th, we'd be even happier. Yes,
just think about humans in life in general. It's not a football-related thing, but it's very a football-related thing. If you actually consider that your success or failure is completely unrelated to other people, and it's you just in comparison with yourself, the perception changes. But we can't do that as humans. It's human nature. This is where it comes to psychology, where we're always looking at what are they doing and what are they doing and what are they doing, looking over the neighbour's
Am I doing life wrong?
No, you're very good. Your balance of life and perspective is better than the majority, in that you have ability to not get overboard, but just look at social media and the content that's out there. People do get overboard. So this is where it's like, why does it have to be a case of we have to compare ourselves against you as a measure of success? Why don't we compare ourselves against ourselves as a measure of success? And the same for you, where you sit sandwiched between Arsenal and West Ham, or Arsenal and Chelsea, or whoever it might be. We can't look at it in that context. It's the same. Like, did Arsenal have a good or a better or worse season than Man United? Well, the relevance is, did Arsenal have a better season than Arsenal the year before? And did Man United have a better season than Man United before? That's more important than which of the two of them had a better season than each other.
Do you know what's going to be really interesting? When we look at the majority of the clubs on Friday, we'll deem that most of them have had a successful season. The majority.
I would say so.
Say it. Save it.
I would say so.
Save it.
Cool. That's a wrap. James, one last thing. I had an idea yesterday. I was thinking about it.
No.
This is very, very relevant for you and me.
Uh-oh.
Work sweepstake. We got a work sweepstake on the Euros, right? It was all computer generated. Names
by Nico.
No.
Didn't intentionally give us Serbia.
No, Lisa didn't. Lisa did the actual thing.
This is Lisa's
She screen recorded it, and then she gave it to Nico to make the little video out of. James and I, because of the number of employees, we have to have more than one sweepstake, because there's more than 24 staff, right? How did we both get the same team?
I don't know.
Serbia.
Brilliant.
Of all teams. Serbia. Who did you get,
England
Nico?
First.
Switzerland. All right, he's very neutral, is Nico.
I mean, this is the problem with these sweepstakes. Only a couple of good teams you can get.
Well,
chances are you're getting a shit one.
Do you know how many games there are in the Euros? Let me just say time.
40.
52.
Okay.
52. There's the group stage, last 16, quarter semis, finals, third, fourth playoff. 52 games by my maths. If I'm wrong.
Are you sure about that?
50. There's 6 times 6, 36.
Yeah, okay.
16, something.
44, 48, yeah, 51, I think.
51 games.
Something like
okay.
That.
In plus the third, fourth playoff?
No, don't have that in the Euros.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, okay, so 51.
Shouldn't have that in nothing, but anyway.
All right, fair play. I was thinking of how do we make it interesting for people like you and me that have shit teams, and also not make it
we have England.
No, we have Serbia. Okay, I'm going to go
Serbia against England because we've got Serbia.
I'm going to go and buy 51. It's going to cost 51 quid. £1 scratch cards.
Right.
Every time your team loses in the work sweepstake, you get a scratch card.
Okay.
That way, people like you and me, we might not have any chance of winning whatever the prize is for winning the entire year. But we might get 3 scratch cards.
Your maths is wrong. Now you have to buy Ahmed and 2.
Why?
Because you said there was double the amount of people.
Yeah, so sorry, 52 is one. But the second sweepstake, not every team is taken.
Right.
Not every team's taken because we didn't have enough to fill 50. We've got in between 1.5 sweepstakes worth of teams.
Okay.
So it might cost me 60 quid. But what do you think of the concept now? Because if you and I know we've got no chance of winning the sweepstake, what's the point of even getting involved? Well, if I know now you might win 3 scratch cards and I might win 3 scratch cards, and between us we might make a couple of grand. We could also make
just
nothing.
Just go buy a couple of scratch cards if that's what I wanted to do. When did you last buy a scratch card?
I didn't. I always go to the petrol station, and when people in the queue in front of me buy like 4 or 5 scratch cards, I always scratch my head.
I can't remember the last time I've even seen someone buy a scratch card.
I see it all the time at the petrol station.
Really?
But you don't drive, so you don't go to the petrol station.
I go to that petrol station, that shithole every day.
You and I are going to win scratch cards
lunch
at the same time because Serbia are going to lose games.
Hopefully to England.
And we're going to lose them at the same time, so we'll scratch them off together. Let's see who wins the scratch cards. But do you think it's a good idea of making it more interesting for people with shit teams?
No, I think it's bollocks.
Why?
It's just bollocks.
Okay, fine. Fair play. Listeners, I'm interested in your thoughts. I just tried to make it interesting for you. I'll keep your scratch cards.
You do that.
Tomorrow, Euros, reviewing
we'll talk England tomorrow.
Subscribe wherever you are listening to the podcast. Hit the like button. Leave us a nice positive review. Jump in the comments on YouTube, all of that other stuff. Most importantly, head over to patreon.com /Planet FPL if you want to support the show. You got all of June now where you can sign up, pay, test it out, which means you'll also get all of July free because we're not billing in July, and then you'll be all set and ready to enjoy the entire season from August as a Planet FPL patron because there'll be so much fun and games, prize leagues, additional content, Slack community of loads of engaged managers, fixture planning spreadsheet, and a bunch of other stuff as well. So if you're interested in supporting the show, you've had a good season and you like us, then patreon.com /Planet FPL.
Yeah, stop DMing me and telling me what a great season you had. Just join fucking Patreon. Yeah, cheers, thanks.
Stay safe, look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please. Man child.